o'clock-ish, 6-ish, sure, it's like 6-ish on the East Coast. We got an hour and a half NBA DFS conversation taking y'all straight up the lock. If you can do the old UCF math, it's 7:30 as far as lock tonight. Weird slate. One game at 7:30, one at 8 o'clock, and then two late games, 10 o'clock each. Half the slate starts at 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Joined today by the Chief, Will. Will just got your Chinese food. We're gonna be eating during the show, I suppose. That's cool. It's a relaxed. It's a relaxed atmosphere here, obviously. Will, how are things in your world? What's the go-to? Like, what's the chalk? Sweet and I'm gonna say sweet and sour chicken. That's the chalk go-to order. What do we get?
The missus like sweet and sour. I'm all over the board with Chinese. So, bourbon chicken I like, chicken wings, of course, orange chicken. No, my fiance's go-to is actually orange chicken. That's her favorite, but she does like sweet and sour teriyaki chicken. I like a little beef and broccoli, a little salt and pepper shrimp, pepper steak. Let's see what else is out there. Honestly, man, I like so much. I could almost eat anything. So there you have it. I like it all. I've got a nice little pork egg roll here right now as well. So I like it all.
You're going to be making people hungry out there. You're making producer Steve hungry. What's up, chat? Kindly hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Hit all the buttons, hit all the things. Michael in chat, almond chicken. That seems like a contrarian play for sure. I'm sure it's fine. I probably had it before. I'm not sure, but they were getting all right. Pork fried rice. Yeah, that's the chalk as well. I think all right. 4-gamer tonight. Will plenty of time to go through the slate. Not a ton of body parts as far as what we're monitoring, like who's in and who's out. I think the really big one that's yet to fall, and it sort of feels like if you look at the content that I've done and other people have done, and we're all kind of assuming that Rudy Gobert is not going to be playing tonight. We'll see. But we're kind of assuming that's going to happen, and it'll be Naz Reid season tonight once again. He's got that groin, so he's questionable. We'll get that news. Well, it's 8 o'clock. I assume we'll get that news before 7:30, the very first game, Golden State and Boston. Rematch, of course, of the title last season. Jaylen Brown expected to go. Kind of not surprising. I believe he practiced as well, and I think the note was that no issues as far as restrictions. Yeah, that's what we're seeing. Like if he's going to play, he's a full go. Anything else as far as this slate? I feel like I'm missing something, but I think everybody else is actually kind of just we know who's in, and that's that. It's the association, so things change. Oh, Minnesota. Yeah, I should mention not just Rudy Gobert, but Anthony Edwards, who's been dealing with that hip injury. He's been playing through it, though. I assume he's going to play through it again. Chris Paul was ruled out earlier today. They did get one piece back. Phoenix, that is, who's been out basically the entire season, is Cam Johnson. Probably somewhat of a minute going on there, but obviously Phoenix is still pretty thin. Yeah. Well, what do we have as far as the slate? As far as the overview, it's an interesting one. Of course, things would change if Gobert does happen to play, but for me, in my head at least, I'm assuming that it's Naz Reid season. We'll see. Yeah, and potentially Garza if you want to be ambitious, he could be interesting too for a 4-gamer, but. Yeah, what are you looking at as far as this slate?
It's kind of a mixed bag because I feel like what could possibly be the most competitive game of the night may actually be the last game. We'll see. And I'm saying that Golden State has not played well on the road overall, so I want to see how they handle it tonight. And I'm not sure how many people are interested in Philly and Dame with one of the tighter spreads, because I don't think this Brooklyn Phoenix game should be this tight for what it's worth. One of the tighter spreads on the night where we've got Boston as a 6.5 point favorite against the Warriors. So this game has all the star power. I'm so glad it's going to be on national TV. But quite frankly, man, I've got a ton of interest in this Portland Philly game.
Interesting. Yeah. And as far as like ownership stuff, I mean, let's take a peek. Obviously this stuff changes. Most high, and again, the Reed thing would obviously shuffle up the slate, but as of right now, like Saban Lee is getting a monster ownership total. We're assuming him for just 24 minutes tonight. He's only been the team. I think this is the last day of his 10-day contract there in Phoenix, formerly of Detroit. Josh Hart's getting a bunch of ownership. Taurean Prince, assuming he's in, is getting a bunch of ownership. There's some weird names, man, because it's just, 4-gamer. There's not a ton of great value necessarily. Lee could be pretty good, and Reed would be really good. But to make stuff work with Precious Achua, this is where it's just a weird slate of guys as far as who's getting the most ownership. Saban Lee, Josh Hart, Taurean Prince, Precious Achua, Anthony Edwards is the first big star, which, if he was fully healthy, I guess I don't hate it, but it's a weird slate though. We got to talk it through and figure it out, and it hasn't quite popped to me. Like, I haven't had the full clarity. It's like, this is what I'm going to do. This is my path outside of I'm going to have more Toronto than most people. That's one of my big decisions. I like the Raptors a good bit because their coach is out of his mind when it comes to giving minutes. The third game in 4 nights, second night of a back-to-back. Third game in 4 nights, second night of a back-to-back. The first leg of the back-to-back went to overtime. Everybody's playing over 40 minutes. And all the starters, again, play 35-plus minutes. Some are playing up to 43. Just outrageous. They played just an 8-man rotation in Toronto last game. That's just what they do. In Minnesota, I assume will be without Gobert. Their defense will be weakened. Not that Gobert is like somebody to run away necessarily from the season, but yeah, I like the Raptors a good bit, and we'll talk about it. But is there anything else you want to point out before we kind of do the game-by-game deal? And again, if you guys are in chat, feel free to join the conversation, whatever's on your mind. Happy to entertain your questions and your thoughts because we have time to do so. We have an hour, well, I guess 50 minutes now until we hand it off to the Crunch Time crew that is Squirrel Patrol. And I believe it's Squirrel Patrol and Andre, and of course, Roth will be steering that ship. Anything that's worth pointing out as far as an overview of the slate you want to kind of mention before we kind of do the game by game deal?
Well, I think just between the two sites, we may have some differentials on some guys. But other than that, and I think we'll talk about that when we get there. But like for instance, Curry's probably a better value on FanDuel tonight than DK, even though he's probably going to get 3-point bonus. He's a little bit more expensive, soaks up a little bit more salary. So it's little things like that, I think, between the sites that could be the difference. For instance, a guy like Nas Reed, he's, let's call it slightly more expensive on FanDuel, but I don't think that will matter if he gets to start. Like, that's one you can just kind of throw out of the window.
Yeah.
Maybe you play Precious on DK, but you don't play him on FanDuel. You get what I'm saying? It's like it's those little decisions, I think, between both sites where it's just not completely cookie cutter from one site to the other.
Hey, you want to concentrate mostly on FanDuel and I'll concentrate mostly on DK? You want to make it work like that?
Sure.
Okay. Cool. I know we've done it before. That's why I just kind of threw it out there. I didn't want to catch you by surprise, but I figure that's I think it worked for us in previous shows. So, all right. I forgot Austin Rivers is also questionable too. That doesn't matter as much, but just throwing that out there. Okay. Very first game, rematch of the finals last season. Golden State, Boston, national TV, 240.5 total, big boy number. Boston about a 6-point favorite here. Golden State, like you said, they've been massively disappointing all season long. On the road, they're like something like 5-17 off the dome. Like, it's not good. It's been a bad record. But certainly some superstar power in this game. The tricky part is from our rostering guys' perspective, we don't have a lot of injuries, right? I believe Golden State, if I'm not mistaken, is fully healthy, right? Am I missing somebody as far as Golden State? I mean, Iguodala, Kuminga. Okay, yeah, they're basically fully healthy. And Boston is fully healthy with Brown in. That's a fully healthy Boston Celtic roster. And you got to pay these full price tags. And we don't have like a ton of value as per now, which is why ownership is not getting out of hand in this game for gamers. So ownership, the pie is going to be sliced bigger for individual players. But the biggest number on DK, 22% for Marcus Smart at 6.5K. Like, it's not spectacular. It's fine. Kevon Looney, come on, get out of town. Who wants to roster Kevon Looney? 20% Kevon Looney? I don't think so. I'm under that. Draymond is fine. It's 22%. But what's interesting is the studs, right? Jaylen Brown is 13%. Tatum is 13%. I believe Steph is even lower than that. I'm scrolling. Clay is at 12. It's just really interesting. And also, like, this game, you're going to kind of see if you have pieces later how well you're doing, basically. How well did you do in the first game or the first two games? It's kind of like this the slate is split in two. I'm still trying to find where Steph is. Steph at 5%. This is DK. And like you say, he's more on DK, but also he's a distinctly better player on DK where he gets, I think, 0.09 more fantasy points, almost 0.1 fantasy points per minute on DK because, again, that 3-point bonus, and it does not get hit as hard on his turnovers. Fanduel costs you 1, and you don't get the 0.5 as far as the threes. So it's a weird game where, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's some good star power, but salary matters. And for that reason, it's keeping, really, really good players down. How are you handling this?
Once again, I think you always take shots. This is a small slate. I think you plug in the guys that may end up being kind of slight mid-range value plays, like, for instance, like a D'Angelo Russell or hold on a second here. I lost the guy. Scroll down too far. Or like a Marcus Smart. And here's what I'm saying. Marcus Smart doesn't have like 60-point upside, but like he's probably got like 40-point upside. So like some of this mid-range stuff you may want to get to in competitive games. That's typically my approach anyway. I don't really want to play guys that I feel like are going to be in blowouts. I prefer to get in on the competitive action. A guy like Fred VanVleet at 7,900 on FanDuel might be viable. And I'm saying that because you can't play all the stars in the Golden State game, right? You just can't. So you can probably play Curry, Jaylen Brown, even though he's at 8,300, maybe a better value than Jason Tatum at 11K on FanDuel, maybe. Draymond Green, I don't want to play Draymond. He's 6,600, just doesn't feel great. Clay is priced at 7,400, and it's probably the right price now, considering his scoring output, but Curry's back, so I don't see as many 40-plus fantasy point games in our future. So I think for me, it's find the star you like, whether that be Curry, Tatum, Brown, Siakam, who I think is a good play tonight. Whoever that star is, put them in and don't budge off of your initial take, right? Then filter in all of the other value-ish pieces that you like rather than working it back. And I think that's my approach tonight. And then you can figure it out from there.
All right. Taking a peek at the chat, seeing what's going on with there. Somebody's asking, Steven's asking, someone from Golden State Boston will be in the game, will be in the GPP winning lineup. Will that happen? Yes or no? Yes, I guess. Yeah, I think probably. I guess. I don't know. I'm on the fence. Do you think for sure? No. If you had to guess, will somebody be in the GPP winning lineup? That's all the way up the top from this Golden State Boston game? Probably. I think probably. You have a thought on that?
Maybe. I don't think they have to.
Yeah.
If I had to choose one, I feel like it's Curry at 9,500. But here's the thing: it's a small slate. If Jason Tatum goes off for 52, and nobody else is like really there, everybody else in the 40s, he's in the winning lineup by default just by raw points. And that's where I think we end up, folks. You just have to bear with me. I've had a long day, and so I'm finally, for whatever reason, right around showtime, I was able to get some food. So I'm really sorry about this. I'm snacking on and just finished a pork egg roll, and I think that's going to hold me the rest of the show. So my main meal, which is pork fried rice and bourbon chicken, I want to close that up. I just at least needed to finish that egg roll. So thank you for your patience and your kindness in bearing with me on this. So once again, if I had to pick one, it's Curry out of this game. But once again, Jason Tatum could fully hit 52-ish fantasy points tonight, and he could be in the winning lineup just by default of raw points.
Question in chat. What's up, Silver Badger? Chat, do we have one low ball value? Wait, hold on. Are they playing low ball? Are you asking for a player that's like terrible, like dollar for dollar? Is that what you want? Or you want like a good value play? I'm confused by the question. Let's see, chat. Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to understand that question. Well, what is he asking here, Chief? Am I misunderstanding this? Do we have one low ball value in your mind? So when I hear low ball, I want to.
I know what you're thinking about.
Good value play. Okay, there you go. Because low ball is the game we play where we try to get the lowest score possible by spending the most money. Okay, yeah. Do you have a favorite value play on this slate? And I guess a lot of us our answer, de facto answer, is going to be, well, when Rudy Gobert is rolled out, it's Naz Reid, I suppose, right? That's the answer, and then Saban Lee, possibly the answer there in for Phoenix. Is there somebody else that you have in mind overall as far as this slate?
Not exactly. I mean, I don't think. No.
All right. Let's just kind of.
I guess. Well, I guess you could consider T.J. Warren a low ball play. Like you could on FanDuel, he's $5K. Naz Reid is $5K. If you want to play that angle.
Yeah. Warren, he's got to score his points. We'll talk about him soon enough, and he'll have an opportunity to come off the bench and score. He's not going to play a ton of minutes necessarily, but also with Kyrie being at back, some of his usage will be his ceiling. I think will be capped a little bit. We'll dig into it, but yeah, as of right now, there's not a lot of amazing value plays. Precious Achiuwa, I guess we'll talk about him. You can just sort of sort like by dollar for dollar. I'm curious who the top ones happen to be as of right now, but this stuff will change. Let's see. On DK, our best dollar for dollar plays. I have just that one game highlighted. Let's highlight them all. It's Saban Lee. Oh, Josh Hart's really cheap on DK. He's 4.9. Just seems a little bit too cheap tonight. And then it's Achiuwa, Taurean Prince if he plays. Did I call him Tayshaun earlier? That would be incorrect. Kevon Looney. Draymond's got a pretty good price at 6K. And that's, he's like barely over 5X. And that just kind of speaks to how the slate does not offer a ton of value necessarily. And that's why Reed's going to be incredibly owned if he all of a sudden gets unleashed, if Gobert happens to take a seat, which I think a lot of people seem to be expecting. I like that price play on Fanduel for Brown. I think he's a little bit too cheap over there. I guess it's somewhat baked in, like whatever risk there may be of him coming back from injuries, but they're saying no issues. Like he's going to play his normal allotment of minutes. So I think he's pretty solid. What about Time Lord Williams? I think he's kind of sort of somewhat interesting. We've seen his minutes creeping up as well. This feels like, it's an 82-game season, but a game versus Golden State, rematch of the NBA Finals. Boston probably wants this one more than Golden State if you want to use that angle. Like, of course, they want to both win, but, they're probably a little bitter about losing last season. Did you mention Time Lord Williams?
I did not.
Thoughts?
Well, he's 5,900, and so I don't think he's playing enough minutes to burn me yet. If he was playing 30 minutes, 5,900, we'd be all over that. But still in this awkward split with Al Horford, he's going to come off the bench and be active. I know he's a guy that could get 3 blocks in this game. Like, I get it, Dean, but yeah. I'm just not enthused about dropping 5,900 on Robert Williams in a spot where Golden State's going to be running up and down the court with some small ball.
I'm assuming he's been a better player on FanDuel. It just makes sense in my head as far as points per minute. Yeah, 1.12 on FanDuel with those stocks, 1.06 on DK. But still playable. On DK, I think you have a friendlier price, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's like let's see. He's 5.5 on DK. Somebody was asking in chat as far as Boston, if they yield 3-pointers, how vulnerable are they to the 3? Defensively, Boston's actually been pretty good against the 3. They've given up the 7th fewest amount of made 3-pointers per game, 11.6 to be precise. Golden State, about the 8th most at 13 per game. Minnesota, we'll talk about them later. They've given up the 3rd most. That's the biggest 3-point yielder on this slate today. The one to give also on the slate, that is Philadelphia. Philadelphia gives up the least amount of 3-pointers, 11.2 per game. Anything else that we should stress? Anything else we should note as far as Golden State and Boston? I think Jordan Poole is kind of sort of somewhat unplayable. His price is just not adjusted enough or dipped enough when Clay and Steph are there. I guess if you're running 150, if you want to pinch, I suppose. if you want to bet on blowout or so, high variance, being super efficient. But I don't think I'm not playing Poole. He's just too expensive. Fillers, like I'm okay filling in with Horford. I think Wiggins is okay at 5'8" on DK. But that's just what this is. It's a whole lot of okay, basically. I don't know if I'm getting the Clay at 7'2".
Rudy Gobert officially out, by the way.
There it is. That's what we're waiting for. Okay. Value party. And I think we'll talk about it, but I think Garza is super, super interesting as a value cheapie. And I'm not sure if you can play them both. I think you can just because they're cheap enough. But, if something happens with Nas, we saw Garza play last night a good bit. He's a really good fantasy point minute player. We'll get to that game soon enough, actually, in a second. But, I wonder how projected he's going to be. We actually have an if-then, I believe. What about Rivers? Is he in or out, or we don't know yet?
Don't know yet.
They didn't update them both. So Gobert out. Not surprising. Don't know about Rivers, but I don't know how it would affect the rest of these guys anyway. But we're giving Garza. Interesting. Are we only projecting Garza in if Rivers is out? Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that one in a second. As far as that's what I'm staring at. I'm staring at. My apologies. I'm looking at the wrong if-then. If you guys are premium members, we have an if-then kind of set up. You can see, in advance, like what the projections would look like if for some players, not every single player that's like questionable. And I'm pulling up the one that has what if Gobert is out. Yeah, if Gobert is out, we're projecting Garza for like 14 minutes and 15 points. Knight for 2 minutes. So we got Garza ahead of Knight. It was another big. But I think he's super, super interesting. He's a guy that can get there in 15 minutes, theoretically. We'll get there in a second. But you got anything else as far as Golden State and Boston, or shall we move on?
Let's move on, my friend.
Yeah. So do you want to make the argument for or against Naz Reid is going to draw the start almost definitely here against Toronto? His price actually went down. Really, really strong fantasy point minute player. He's also got forward eligibility on DK. I believe he's center and center only on Fanduel. So if you want to make that argument against him on Fanduel, it's probably a better argument just for that reason, because you're, put in a corner with just one play. But, Nas averages 1.15 DK, 1.16 Fanduel. Assuming he dodges foul trouble, he can get handsy. We saw it last night where he almost fouled out. But, we're projecting him for about 30 minutes or so, and it's the best value play on the night, almost definitely. When projections kick in, do you want to argue against rostering him? Because, of course, he's going to be like 75% owned or something goofy.
I don't think I can argue with you tonight, Dean. I think we just hit the lock button. Like, that's what it feels like, right? I don't think a 4-game slate is the spot to get incredibly cute with a guy that, should put up pretty good numbers here.
Yeah. Do you have a thought as far as Garza by chance? Because I think it's an interesting idea, and I think I would play them both together potentially. I haven't officially decided on that, but Garza 1.2 fantasy points per minute on DK, really, really strong. 1.18 on FanDuel. We're giving him like 15 minutes, but I think there's a chance he gets more than that. I don't think he would play alongside Nas, but if it's split, 33-15, 33-16 as far as the 5 minutes. Again, Knight is still lurking, and he may get some minutes as well. I'm not sure if he got minutes last night because both guys were in foul trouble. That might have been it. But and Knight, I guess if you're running 150, if you want to be super ambitious, I guess he's in the pool as well. But there's truly a floor of 0 on him. How do you feel about Garza? He's had his moments, his cup of coffees occasionally. I believe he was another guy from Detroit, and Detroit Castaway. 4-gamer. We got to try to find some salary savers. Does Garza do anything for you?
Not really. Garza I could probably pass on. I know he's going to get some minutes, but you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like he's a slam dunk like like Naz Reid. Like Garza could still go out here and get 10 fantasy points. You get what I'm saying?
100%.
Whereas
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Whereas Naz Reid, I feel like, is like probably 25 and up, if that makes any sense.
Nas was not very good last night. He was in foul trouble for a good bit last night. And I think he finished without 25 fantasy points, which, did not hurt you, did not make you. But, he was on this slate. He feels like he's going to be just super, super useful. I'm trying to see if we have an update. Oh, do we already kick in our? Yeah, okay. Looks like we already updated our stuff. Give the old lineup HQ a refresh. Let's talk about Minnesota and Toronto. 231 is the total. Minnesota is a 5-point dog here. We don't know about Rivers. He's still questionable. We also don't know about Edwards. That will be a big one as well. I assume Edwards is going to play because he's been playing through whatever he's been dealing with. He's I don't think he's missed a game, if I'm not mistaken, with his hip. I think he left the game but didn't come back or something like that. Taurean Prince also is questionable with that ankle. He's another guy who's been playing through it. I assume he's going to play, but stay tuned. Let's see. We've got no update. We only got a Gobert update. Nobody else as far as Minnesota? I guess that's the case. Okay, fair enough. All right, so our projections now on Minnesota. We're giving Nas 32 minutes and 35 fantasy points, and he's 4.6K on DK. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to not play him? Okay. You want to bet in extreme goofiness, have at it. You can make victory lap it later in a sample size of one. Something really, really weird can happen. But otherwise, it's a strong, strong play. How do you feel about Anthony Edwards being one of the best, most popular spend-ups on this slate? According to our ownership projection, as of, it's going to change because this is not involving, it doesn't factor in the Nas stuff, but 27% on Edwards. Do you like that? Are you in on Edwards as far as the Minnesota side?
I don't hate Edwards. I do still think I like Russell more, 6,400, just because of the price. Like he's $2,300 cheaper on FanDuel. Clearly, Edwards is the ultimate upside play on the team. But if Edwards squeaks out 48 tonight, and Russell, can get to 39. I mean, raw points are going to matter, but I still like Russell. In this spot against the Raptors at home. But I do think Anthony Edwards is the better player, so don't misconstrue that. I guess from a general standpoint, if I had to choose two, it's probably Naz Reid, and then I just split the difference between Edwards and Russell, and that's kind of how I play it against them. I will say that I do love Pascal Siakam tonight on the other side at 9,300 on FanDuel. I think that's a really good price for him, a guy that can put up 60 here.
Yeah, Raptors are awesome because, you just know they're going to play at a minimum, again, barring the extreme goofiness, like 35 minutes, all the starters, right? The projected minutes we have tonight, Pascal at 39, Trent at 37. I believe he played 43 the other game, last game. And again, that was the third game in 4 nights, coming off a back-to-back in which they went to overtime, and he played 43 minutes. Outrageous. Freddie VanVleet, FVV, 37 minutes. Scotty Barnes, 36. OG, 36. And it's hard to project much beyond that. We are putting 4 guys, so a 9-man rotation, but there's no certainty of that. Last game, again, they had an 8-game rotation. Precious Achiuwa was the 6th man who got the most minutes. Center and center only on DK. He's fine, right? He's okay. But, if you need a flat-out punt, we're projecting 25 minutes, 21 fantasy points. There's Boucher who's lurking. He certainly had his moments. It happens on occasion. Typically, it happens when, one of the starting 5 is not available. That's not the scenario we're looking at today. So, you got to really tell yourself a story to get behind Boucher. I suppose it's possible. You can get 20 minutes and shine. And then there's, Hernan Gomez and Flynn basically unrosterable. I love Siakam as well. I believe he's got forward eligibility too on FanDuel as well, right? Power forward eligible.
Yeah.
Which is
power forward for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely really, really helpful on FanDuel as well. And I think that the absence of Gobert certainly helps him, right? Like Nas is he's active, but he's not the defender that Gobert is. I know Gobert is, weakened, not what he once was, yada, yada. But it's certainly an advantage to take on Minnesota now. And Garza, from what I've seen of him, I don't know his stats or whatever, but I don't think he's a great defender, assuming he's played some backup 5. And Pascal, being in the court for most of the game is going to cross paths with both starters and backups on the Minnesota side. 14% ownership for Pascal. And again, I probably shouldn't be quoting the ownership stuff because it's going to be getting a refresh in shortly. Let me see if I hit the refresh button, if it's something just kind of miraculously pops up. No, still as of 6 o'clock. This will change. It's coming in soon. I like Pascal a lot. He might be on my main lineup. If not Pascal, FEV, like almost definitely. I think I'm going to have a Raptor on like your lineup. They're just so solid. And Freddie's interesting because this slate, it's a 4-gamer, but you got Steph, right? Think of all the point guards in the slate. Steph, and then later on, Lillard, Harden, and Kyrie. And those 3 guys, what's really interesting with those 3 is they're all basically the same price, and they all play at the same time. You can pivot based upon how you did earlier. And I'm always sure ownership-wise the difference between those 3. I'm really curious. But they're all essentially the same price in the same position. And if one is super chalky and one is like clearly the 3rd best as far as ownership, if you want to play some catch-up, just get to the 3rd. And they're all kind of the same. Kyrie, Harden, and Lillard, I think. Basically the same. They all have the same ceiling, essentially. Talk to me about Freddie. You said you like Pascal. How many Raptors are you on the roster?
Yeah, I don't hate Fred VanVleet either. He's 7,900. I mean, he's been playing well. We've seen Scotty Barnes kind of play very well here from a fantasy perspective. I think you could just I'm gonna pull out a term from the prop side. I think we can just kind of round robin these guys in your lineups. At most, I think 2 of them get there. I don't think 3 get there. At most 2. And if I had to settle in on 1, it's Pascal. And I think I just use Pascal as the anchor, and then I just kind of go through VanVleet at 79, and the rest of these guys. Now, I don't really like Gary Trent at 7K for what it's worth. Like, hits the X button. I am not paying 7K for Gary Trent, okay? Not at all.
I'll just here that like Trent's got the 2nd most 3-pointers on this team, I believe. 3-pointers per game. I believe he's the best percentage-wise, and Minnesota gives up the 2nd or 3rd most threes in the league. So it's a good matchup for him. But it is
Gary Trent's got to score so many points to get to like a reasonable amount to be for the 7K price tag to be valuable.
At least 25. Right? Yeah.
Maybe he might need to hit 30 points for 7K to be. So I just can't do it. He gets the X button. VanVleet can get there in multiple ways. Pascal can get there in multiple ways. Scotty can get there in multiple ways, even though I feel like he's slightly too expensive. OG can get there in multiple ways as well. I just don't think he has as much upside as the other guys.
Yeah. But again, Trent, by the way, played 43 minutes last game. So I agree with you, by the way. In theory, I tend to shy away from playing the players that are super, extremely reliant on putting, points in the bucket. They don't have a lot of their pass. If Trent only scores 8 points, he's not getting home. But other players like a Draymond or a Simmons, they can get there, survive very easily and score 8 points. Some guys, it's that's good for him, and he'll get boards, assists, stocks, the whole deal, and fill out the stat sheet. That's not Trent's game, man. Trent's got to hit those threes. He's got to score. If he's not scoring, you are in trouble for sure. OG, you catch him on the right night as far as stocks, especially on Fanduel. If you get 4 or 5 or 6 stocks out of him, you're well on your way. He generally is tasked with guarding, the best player on the other team. Probably is going to be on Edwards, assuming Edwards plays.
Yes.
Do you think Achua is interesting? I think he's center only on FanDuel, I think. So then he's a no-go, I believe. No, you can play him at power forward, but he's 4.5, so the price is not as appealing over there. Your thoughts on my precious?
Once again, no, I got you. The big Chihuahua.
What?
I just
yesterday. That sounds like a Kirkwood made up nickname. I don't believe that's official, but go ahead.
I just made it up myself. So the big Chihuahua, that feels right to me. I'm not interested on FanDuel, and I think I said that earlier. But on DK, where he's under 4K in that 3K range, I get it. But I don't think I want to play him on FanDuel at 4,500.
According to the Google machine, Smeagol is apparently, somebody's saying that's his nickname. I don't know if that's official or not. I believe that's a Lord of the Rings reference. I've not seen those movies. I saw the first one. It was torturous. I did not enjoy it. But you a Lord of the Rings guy?
No.
There you go. That's the answer. It's gonna get. The chat's gonna be very upset. Maybe half the chat.
I mean, I'm not hating on Lord of the Rings. It's just not my jam.
Yeah, it is a weird thing to be actively hating things. It's just I don't think about sewing at all. If you like to enjoy yourself, just sew away. It doesn't bother me either way. I guess I should feel the same way with Lord of the Rings. If you like it, just enjoy it. It's okay. It doesn't change my life in any way. All right. Anything else as far as this game? It sounds like we really, really like Toronto. We're gonna be playing some Nas, and we'll figure it out from there. Anything else of note that we should talk about, or shall we move on? 2 more games left, and then of course the crunch time crew coming in about 17 minutes, give or take. You got SquirrelPatrol, you got Andre, and Kevin Roth.
Yeah, let's move on, man. Brooklyn Suns.
I can't tell if Izzy's being sarcastic or not, but saying shocked Dean is not into dragons and hobbits. I don't know if that's a sarcasm or not, but
Dean, you read the full one. He said isn't, so isn't an abbreviation for is not. I get it, but
no, but I'm saying, was that sarcasm? That could be sarcasm.
I was just messing with you about what was actually on the screen, Dean. Sorry. I guess I got a little bit too technical.
Did I mispronounce? Oh, did I say is not? Is that what I said?
Correct.
All right. Oh, they're asking about slow-mo. He's fine. Just we didn't really mention him.
He's 6,500 on FanDuel. He's not that great for me over there.
That's a good point. He's 5'6".
I mean, look, I understand he's had 40 to 50, but he could easily have 25 points in this game, 25 fantasy points. He's not guaranteed to get to 40.
In the off chance that Edwards doesn't play, all these T-Wolves will get bumped up incrementally. He would get one as well, but he's playable on DK at 5'6" for what it's worth, and in
absolutely
he's playable as well. But FanDuel, I don't like it as much, like you're pointing out.
Now, if Anthony Edwards sits, we end up in a slightly different situation. So let me just put that out there. But Anthony Edwards has been questionable more than LeBron James this season. He plays every game, so I'm just going to assume he's playing.
That's kind of where I'm at too. He's just going to deal with whatever he's dealing with, and there you go. Brooklyn versus Phoenix. These are both the night games. Dual-pronged hammer this evening. We got Brooklyn at Phoenix. 220 is the total. Brooklyn is looks like a 4-point favorite here, a 3-point favorite here. As far as the body parts, we know that Kyrie is back, and we know Durant is out. Otherwise, everybody else is good to go for Brooklyn. Brooklyn ran out a lot of dudes last game to try to make up for the absence of Kyrie. Hopefully, for our sake, from a DFS perspective, they will tighten up that rotation. Phoenix did get one piece back. We got Cam Johnson back. But again, they're still without Campaign and Booker and Okogie and Shamet. And the news was Chris Paul, who fought at it. There was still a chance he might come back today, not coming back today. So Phoenix still really, really thin. Let's talk about the Brooklyn side first. We know Kyrie gets a huge bump in the absence of Durant. And I think we should talk about Kyrie as, in the conversation of, well, how do you feel about Kyrie versus Harden versus Lillard? They're all essentially the same. Where do you have Kyrie on the podium amongst those three?
Well, Kyrie at 9,200 is up there for me. Being that he's the main catalyst of scoring for this team against Phoenix. So that's where I am at 9,200. I think he's a great play. This is FanDuel, of course. We've got him at around 30%. We've got Pascal around 29%, so hanging around 30%. We've got Anthony Edwards around 30%. We have Steph Curry around 5% at 9,500. So, Dean, what is that telling us? Sounds like we need to be bumping up our Chef Curry shares at 9,500. They're all around the same price. and he's getting a fraction of the ownership in a competitive game against Boston, and he can score it with the best of them. Straight up, I do like Pascal Siakam tonight over all of these guys. But if you want to play Kyrie, if you want to play Curry, trust me, I'm not going to hate it one bit. Based on that ownership, though, Curry feels like the de facto tournament play of the night on a small, modest 4-game slate. But back to Kyrie, I do love Kyrie for what it's worth.
Hey, hit that refresh button. Our ownership projection just got refreshed. So refresh the old lineup HQ, and it's interesting. I thought there would be like more of a stand being taken here, because I'm sure I'm going to have this decision point at some point tonight. And I know it's different. The prices are quoting are on Fanduel, and Curry's cheaper over there. Kyrie's cheaper over there. But on DK, we got Kyrie at 9.9, Lillard at 10, and Harden at 9.8. So they're all essentially the same price. If you have $200, you can play any one of the three. And the ownership is Lillard at 16%, Kyrie at 19%, and Harden at 18%. So you just got to guess right. And there's not a big, assuming our ownership is basically correct, there's not a huge edge. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how I'm going to handle that later on tonight if I have one of those guys, but we'll see when we get there, I suppose. Beyond Kyrie, as far as Brooklyn, there's not a lot getting ownership here. Simmons coming off that triple-double, of course, he excelled in the absence of Kyrie. His scoring is not spectacular, but he can get you there with assists and boards, and he's a good steals guy as well. Not getting a ton of ownership. 7-1 now on DK. Claxton's pumped all the way up to 7-4. You mentioned TJ Warren getting 3% ownership. That's just he's kind of like a poor man's Trent, right? You're hoping for 20 points off the bench. Joe Harris, good Lord, he laid a massive egg last game. Seth Curry pulled an Undertaker gif, and so he salvaged his game last time out, but as mega chalk, struggled in the first half, but he eventually got there. But now his usage will take the hit because he had a 30% usage when Kyrie is not on the court. Kyrie back, therefore price is pumped up and his opportunity is weakened. I'm not terribly enthused about Curry. Can you play him? Sure. Am I? Unlikely. And then there's Royce O'Neal, who's, definitive classic 3-and-D guy, should play 35 minutes. Point per dollar, not spectacular, but he's going to be out there for a long time. There's not a lot here, is the long story short, on Brooklyn. Beyond Kyrie, who do you like on this Brooklyn side?
Well, I can always get behind, and I think I talked about it earlier, I can always get behind TJ Warren just because of his scoring ability. He's $5K on FanDuel, so I don't hate that. I don't hate Seth Curry at 5,100. I don't hate Royce O'Neal at 5,600, who's just kind of this Swiss Army knife. But once again, we can see him go for 30, and we can see him go for 5 fantasy points like he did against the Spurs. So that's what I'm saying. But you're just kind of taking a chance. Kyrie is the play. And then once again, I think you're in a round robin situation, with these other guys.
56% ownership projected for Nas on FanDuel, where he's center and center only. On DK, 67% ownership. 60, yeah. I can round up to 68, I suppose. It's a big number. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it's higher. That number is for large field, tournaments. If for your single entry and your 3-entry max, it's going to be close to 100. That's just how that was. Chalk gets pushed all the way up, especially the really, really good chalk. And I think Reed is really, really good chalk. How about Phoenix? How do you feel about the Suns? We're giving Cam Johnson 22 minutes his first game back, not getting full allotment. The Saban Lee stuff is a little bit fragile, but he played ahead of Washington last game. This is the last game he has of his 10-day contract. Maybe they want to see what he has. It's a little bit of fragility to it, but he's super, super cheap on DK. He's 3.2K. We're giving him 26 minutes, 24 fantasy points. That's usable. Damian Lee is another guy who's got a pretty solid role, playing minutes in the mid-20s. Now his price is more. So his ownership's going to be 2%, but I think he's an interesting pivot away from, and his role is probably a little bit more secure. I liked Ayton on FanDuel a good bit. But, the Nas stuff, it's hard. Any center you play, we'll talk about Embiid, like guys on Fanduel. If you're boxed in on Nas, just make yourself an Embiid build. And that if Embiid puts up 70 and Nas puts up 30, that could be the difference. Of course, when you have Nas, now you can all of a sudden roster guys like Tatum and Brown and Steph. That's how salary works. But yeah, Phoenix, the Suns. What do you have as far as the disappointing Phoenix Suns?
I mean, man, just their season is just going down the drain, isn't it? I mean, just injuries have riddled this team, and maybe you can play Ayton at 7,400. I mean, he essentially should, command a lot of offense. He's also going to command a lot of attention. You've got Saban Lee, who's garnering, 65% ownership. Now, I'm not saying Saban Lee can't go out here and play well, but Saban Lee is not Naj Reid. I think it's the point I'm trying to get across here. I think
that's
Naj
a good
Reid,
point. Yes, Nas is much, much, much more secure, I think, than Saban Lee.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think Saban Lee is the worst play, but I don't think he has as much upside. I mean, Dwayne Washington is still going to get some minutes. At least I think he will. I don't think Saban Lee is the best player in the world. What's that?
I think they hate him. They just never really let him do his thing, even when, Saban Lee wasn't there. And, it seemed like they kept pushing his minutes down. Like they wouldn't let him fully run the show. And there was one game where like Damian Lee was just playing so well against Golden State, they let him close as like the point basically. But like Washington's a really strong, usage guy. I don't know what to do with him, but theoretically he should be usable.
They've just got an odd collection of cheap guys that could get there or could not get there. Like, I think Ayton's in play. Like, if you want to take a shot on Mikal Bridges in tournaments because everybody's out and he seems to just have some upside now, like consistently, then I think you can do that. But I don't like the Suns' combination of talent or prices here, even though they're cheap. Like Mikal's 71 and DeAndre's 74, and that's expensive for this spot. And by expensive, I mean, would you rather play Mikal Bridges at 71 or would you rather play D'Angelo Russell at 6,400 with no Gobert? Like it's like trying to find that range of balance between those guys. But Mikal's okay, Ayton's okay, but I'm not thrilled about anyone.
Suns lost 9 of their last 10, lost 3 in a row. They're 21-24. I mean, there's plenty of time left in the season, right? But they're currently not even in the play-in game. They're well behind some teams. So they got some work to do for sure. Washington, by the way, his usage in the season's at 31%, and like to put that in perspective, he's got a 30% usage. When he's out there, he is chucking. Higher than Ayton, higher than anybody else on the team. Just the Booker right ahead of him at 32%, but 32% is kind of an elite number. But we're only giving him 22 minutes. But yeah, I think he should be in the pool of players, the pool of options. All right, let's talk about Philadelphia and Portland. Again, crunch time crew coming in about 5, maybe 8 minutes, give or take. 233.5 is the total. Philadelphia is a 2-point favorite here. Last 5 games, Lillard has averaged 40 points in the bucket. He's going crazy of late. He's been awesome of late. Philadelphia is a good defensive team, a team you don't necessarily want to mess with. They are 4th best defensive rating, and they're also pretty slow too, right? Yeah, their pace is 6th slowest. Portland also a pretty slow team too, which is kind of interesting because we're seeing a 233 total with 2 of the 8 slowest teams in basketball. Just interesting to note. And again, defensively, Philadelphia really solid as well. What is your thoughts? What excites you about this game? Of course, the stars are pretty clear: Lillard, Harden, Embiid. Embiid, you're talking about Fanduel. Like, I don't know how many lineups you got to make until you get an Embiid lineup, but certainly he'll be different because people are going to be playing some Reed. What's your assessment as far as the 76ers?
Yeah, my assessment is go ahead and grab up Joel Embiid. That's my assessment. Like, am I willing to fade Naz Reid for Embiid? And the answer is yes, Dean, because there are other guys that I can play. Like, is Naz Reid probably the best value play on this slate? I think so. I think he's the best, but I don't think anybody on this slate has more upside than Joel Embiid right now. Not even Jason Tatum. And Tatum's got some upside. So for me, if one guy is going to beat me, would you rather play, as an example, Dean? And I think I know your answer, and I think that's what most people will do. But would you rather play? Let's call it Naz Reid and Jason Tatum, or Joel Embiid and say TJ Warren?
Yeah, I mean that's the point. Like the Naz Tatum one looks so much better.
It does, but Embiid and Warren are going to give you just as much upside turn. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I feel like Embiid has a higher chance to get to 70 fantasy points tonight versus Tatum, where Naz Reid probably has a higher chance to get to 35 versus TJ Warren. But TJ Warren could get to 28 and Embiid could get to 70. Tatum could end with like 45 and Naz ends with 30. And it's like, we still end up ahead. You get what I'm saying? It's like, I don't think Tatum's going to have a 70-point game tonight. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. I don't see that happening. Whereas Embiid just seems to be, I mean, gosh, man, just destroying people, carrying the this should be a competitive matchup yet again. And that's kind of my read on it.
Somebody in chat asked, Cam Johnson on FanDuel. I think you can. We're projecting, I think, 22 minutes for him. He is pretty cheap. I don't think he's in any way like a great play, but I think there's a chance. And of course, his minutes, we just don't really know. You have to assume they're going to baby him to some degree. I think we gave him like 22 minutes. So like, yeah, I don't feel great about Cam Johnson, but if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I guess you can put him in the pool. Washington and Saban, can you play them both in the same lineup? They've only played 10 minutes together this entire season. Now, Saban Lee's only been on this team this will be his 10th day. So they have not crossed him over a ton for what it's worth. But they're cheap enough where I think you can. And certainly they could cross over again tonight. But I don't know. I don't think I put in a rule against it, but I'm not going out of my way to play Washington and Lee together. I don't think I want to do that. That's Saban Lee. Probably Damian Lee, too, to be honest. But, yeah. What about Harden? What about Tobias? We've been talking about Tobias or Maxey. I think it's Harden or Embiid basically on Philadelphia, and that's that. Anything that stands out for you? You can always play. And again, Harden versus Kyrie versus Lillard is the conversation I keep having with myself, and I don't have an answer. I don't have a good answer. They're all the same, and I don't know what to do because they're the same price. And I'll be put to that decision point probably at 9:58. But yeah. Anything else as far as Philly?
Eric, let me say this. I do think this is a interesting, I guess, comment. I don't want to call it a question because he didn't say that, but he was just basically saying that's a little surprising, Chief. TJ's minutes way too risky. So let's talk about that like briefly. It's a 4-game slate today, so it's not like we've got a plethora of options. And so what I'm trying to do is kind of get a little bit different than the field with plays that are comparable overall. So once again, do I think Naz Reid is a better play than TJ Warren? Probably so, straight up. Do I think Jason Tatum is a better play than Embiid today? No, I do not. So I've kind of got this weird break, right, where Naz Reid is going to get, I don't know. What do you think, Dean? I mean, on a center, he's probably going up somewhere around 50%, I would say, maybe.
On FanDuel, it's going to be higher. I think it'll be higher than that, 55, 60.
Okay, so 55, 60. And so if he doesn't perform today, and let's say not performing means he ends up with 24 fantasy points. As an example, TJ Warren, on the other hand, plays 25 minutes, puts up 30. And Jason Tatum, and I'm using Tatum because him and Embiid are closely priced. Jason Tatum ends around 49, and Embiid ends around 65. TJ Warren ends around 28. Well, I just literally passed over half the field by making one fade of one of the highest owned players on the slate. And so when you're playing tournaments, the key is you've got to be able to stomach that risk. And notice I'm saying you have to. It's not an option. Like, if you can't stomach risk, you can't win tournaments. Like, you're not going to beat me long-term playing the 65% guy versus my 8% guy long-term. Because then at the end of the night, you're going to say, I can't believe Naz Reid didn't get there, and TJ Warren just went off for 35. And you're like, who wants to play TJ Warren anyway? That was stupid. Well, it wasn't stupid. Naz Reid is 60, and I'm taking a different path to get there. So that's the thought process. So I challenge everybody, be able to stomach a little bit more risk in tournaments. Once again, do I think TJ Warren is a better play than Naz Reid straight up? No. It's about stomaching the risk to win. It's not about whether he's actually better in theory, if that makes any sense.
It's a revenge game for TJ Warren as well, if that does anything for you. There you go.
Oh, but that's it. Bump it up. Look, and guess what? We got one of the best tournament players in the world hopping on Squirrel. So if you don't want to listen to me, just listen to this guy. He'll tell you exactly what you need to do.
We got Andre, we got Squirrel Patrol, we got Roth. Hey, let me ask you. I have a question for you, Squirrel. I'm sure you guys will be digging into this, but I'm sure you've noted there's two games at 10 o'clock, half the slate at 10 o'clock on DK, Squirrel. Lillard, Harden, and Kyrie are all essentially the same price. They all play at the same time, and they all essentially have the same ownership. I feel like I'm going to be put to this predicament of like which one is the right one amongst those three. And based upon how my teams are doing at 7:30, and it's like, well, if they're all projected to be the same, who is the pivot? Like I just don't know what to do with those three. Help me out.
I like Lillard. So yeah, that's just it.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
he's
like
averaging
Lillard.
40 points. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I like him going against like James Harden. Yeah.
I saw Andre nodding his head as well. What's up? Andre, are you $1 million richer today? Did you hit the parlay last night?
No, LaMelo got hurt.
Ah. Yeah, that burned my. I had to
man.
It's serious too, right? They had to take him off. It's kind of a big deal. He's gonna be out for a while, I think.
I didn't see the injury. I just saw that he got hurt on my Twitter notifications, and I proceeded to close my laptop and just go do other things for the rest of the night.
We also have Kevin Roth, the handsome prince, of course, from Lord of the Rings. I see you. I see you typing in chat, Roth.
Well, someone said that the cast of Lord of the Rings just popped in. I was like, which are each of us? I'm at least somewhat intrigued.
You had to be here earlier. We talked about Lord of the Rings briefly. Yeah, it's a callback. Are you a Lord of the Rings guy? Did you watch? I guess you know the prince. That's enough for.
I certainly was when it came out. Yeah, I think we've had this discussion where you refused to go back and watch it, right?
Well, no, I wouldn't. I lost a bet, so I had to watch the first one. And good Lord, it was like 3 hours of misery. I have no interest in watching the next two.
Yeah, no, you're making
3 hours of misery is watching UCF football.
Oh, come on! First of all, their games are like 3.5 hours. That's outrageous.
Have you
enjoyed
seen,
a half hour.
Have you seen Avatar, Dean?
I saw the first one in the theaters. It was fine. I mean, like the sequel. Typically, like if I wanted to see a sequel, I wanted to see it like 9 years ago.
Bingo.
It's like Coming to America. It's like, why 27 years later? Remember you liked this when you were 3? You know? Did you see Avatar? Did you like it?
Yeah, I like both of them. I saw the new one too. It was really, really good.
I'm sure it's really impressive. Like, it's just awesome.
Dean doesn't like anything. I've come to discover. He doesn't like food. He doesn't like people. Doesn't like movies.
Dean is like the toughest critic in the world.
Yeah. I'm like big curmudgeon over there.
You're like, hey man, I love barbecue. You like barbecue? I can't stand barbecue.
No, it's outrageous.
You know, I'm a big eater. It just doesn't do it for me.
That's what everything can't be amazing. Then nothing's amazing, right? I think that's how. Is that how that goes?
Amazing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because then you have to. There's no perspective on what amazing is and is not. But Roth, we're gonna step aside. We're gonna get out of here. You guys got a 4-gamer, plenty of time to knock stuff out. I'm gonna go be a curmudgeon and hate on something else. I like a lot of things, trust me. But yeah, Lord of the Rings did not do it for me, unfortunately. We're not watching the sequel tonight. You got anything else for the people here, Will?
Negative.
All right. Myself and Will appreciate you watching the first portion here. Feel free to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications as Roth will steer the ship, taking y'all home with Andre and Squirrel Patrol. Roth, go for it.
Appreciate it. As always, Dino, welcome to it. It is crunch time. It is indeed sponsored by Fanduel, and Dino does not like lots of things. He's lying. He is indeed a curmudgeon. Hey, joined by two of the sharpest minds of the biz. We got one, Squirrel Patrol. Been a hot minute. Squirrel, how are you?
Good. It's my first NBA show of the season. So, yeah, football's winding down. So, just shifting focus a little bit. Not my first, NBA slate. Right. Playing all season. But, yeah, it's good to be here.
Okay. When I said it's been a while, I didn't realize it had been that long where we haven't done a single NBA show. So it's been since baseball season, but always good to have you here. Always enjoy your excellent GPP takes. And one of you two has to handle cash today as well, because I know our guy Dre over there, also known in the GPP streets. Dre, what's happening?
I guess I'll handle cash today because, Squirrel is the better GPP player over here. But, yeah, I don't mind taking on it today, but I'm doing pretty good over here. Get my lineup together as usual.
Very good. As Dean mentioned, it is a smaller slate. We've got 4 games. Is this wrong? We had an earlier game. Am I making that up?
Nope, we had an earlier game today. It was a game in Paris, which I forgot all about.
Okay, I was curious. I saw the timing of that, and I had no idea what the hell was going on, but I didn't realize it was in Paris. That's kind of cool. All right, hey, before we get into the goods, quick note. We'll get to the great before the good. And the great is you can sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers bet $5 on any market, get $150 in bonus bets. Unless you're in Ohio, then you get $200 in bonus bets. So make sure you're checking that out. We also have scores and odds happening. It is the #1 place for all things sports betting. It's like all the RotoGrinders pros that you know and love, also dabbling and really succeeding in sports betting as well. So make sure you're hopping in there. Let's chat here. Let's see what gives Ross went from curling the Pacifico yesterday to water today. I can't do it every day, man. I got to mix it up. Throw in a random water every now and again. Let's talk about this slate here, Dre. Since you are the cash guy, do you want to give us a brief breakdown and then maybe dive into a FanDuel cash build?
Yes, definitely, for sure. So if you click over to Notorious's core plays here, we have Kyrie Irving, which he likes a lot. I kind of don't agree with that take. Honestly, I agree with Squirrel going with Damian Lillard here as the better GPP player, who's a little bit more expensive. But if you're paying cash, I definitely recommend probably then going that route of Kyrie because it's be popular. But pivoting to one over might not be a bad idea. But Naz Reid, I always say this about certain players on certain shows, and I almost got burned by. Well, I did get burned by him last night because I lost some money. But Naz Reid, it's a little button we have that's called the lock button. Just do it. Just lock him in. Just don't think twice about it. It's a match against Toronto. They don't have a big front court. I know you have to worry about the foul trouble. But I think Naz is a must play. Just lock him in, run 100% of your lineups with them. And I think that's a good play for today for us. Also, I think you can go with also Saban Lee here. Obviously, he's going to be popular here at 4K as a little bit of a salary saver. Don't mind that too. But if you want to go with sort of a mid-range build, Marcus Smart, I think, is a great option along with Fred VanVleet to just get different a little bit, but also still be in a higher range as far as ownership-wise here today. And yeah, I'll pivot over to a little bit like a small forward position because I gave like point guard and shooting guard are pretty much they can interchange with each other here today. Mm-hmm. So Anthony Edwards is probably going to be the most popular guy on the slate. Well, at the small forward position at 8,700, I think you can definitely play him. His usage is crazy high, probably about like 30% without 30% without Towns in the lineup and everyone else. So he's someone I definitely look to get a lot of today. And I think you need to have at least one Toronto guy, maybe two in your lineups today. My personal favorite is Gary Trent, one of my guys I like today. I think he's a good option. And he's coming at 25% on FanDuel, which is still fairly high. So he's someone I think you should definitely try to roster in cash today as well. Pascal Siakam at the power forward position. I think it's also a very, very, very strong option. And another Toronto guy that I like a lot today as well. Al Horford's a great play. I'm not high on not high on Draymond Green, but I see why. But with the ownership wise, I don't mind playing him, but I would probably fade him a little bit and stick with the other guys here at the top. I know this is a lower end play, but I don't mind Kevon Looney as a little bit of a difference maker in salary if you wanted to use that a little bit too as well.
That's it?
Yes.
That was easy. All right, we ran through that quick. Squirrel, you have an expressive face. I love watching you as Dre runs through because you're like nodding in agreement or biting your lip. I feel like you had a lot to add during that. So please.
Actually, I bit my lip right before the show started. So it's like the MJ flu game for me. I'm going to try to
oh God, well, you're going to battle through it, man. I've got faith in you. All right. So what is your overall plan here as you look at this from a GPP perspective on FanDuel?
So we've only got 4 games. The game with the highest point total is the first game, the 7:30 game. I think on these smaller slates, I like to game stack a little bit more, just because games can go haywire. You can have a game that goes to blowout, and so the starters are resting early, or you have a game that goes way over its projected point total. So having a few players from that game, or avoiding players from the other game, can be beneficial for your lineups. But I can run through position by position. We've got, I think Saban Lee is going to be the highest owned guy at point guard, but it's kind of tenuous. I'm going to have a lot of them, but there's definitely some fragility there. Kyrie Irving as pivots, Fred VanVleet, and then, Damian Lillard. You can also use D'Angelo Russell. Going to shooting guard, a guy I really like is Jaylen Brown, because he's been questionable for a good portion of the day, so he's not on everybody's radar. But that's Boston's playing at home in the game with the highest point total of the night. They're the biggest favorite of the night. Why not play one of their best players? So I got a lot of Jaylen Brown at shooting guard. Marcus Smart, who's also Boston, also point guard eligible, fits that category as well. Anthony Edwards, another guy it's kind of questionable. I think he's going to play. There's player props for him out there. So I think he's probably going to play. So Anthony Edwards, you can also use Damian Lee and Dwayne Washington as pivots off of the Saban Lee fragility. Going to small forward, Cameron Johnson's back. And he's really cheap. He's 4,500, but we don't exactly know what the injury situation is. I think it's his first game in a couple of months. So something to be aware of. Still Jaylen Brown, also small forward eligible on FanDuel. And Dante DiVincenzo, also in that, in the Golden State Boston game. See, moving over to power forward, I think it's Pascal Siakam, Robert Williams, and that's better. Maybe some Precious Achiuwa if you're trying to save some money. And then at center, it's all Naz Reid. It's interesting, and then the tournament pivot would be Joel Embiid, because Embiid is the guy that can break a slate, and Reid and Embiid are both just center eligible, so you can't play both of them. But I just like Naz Reid better. But I think Embiid is an intelligent tournament pivot, because people won't be able to play a lot of Embiid because they're playing so much Naz Reid.
Okay, 2 tournament questions here. First, of the 2 guys who have all the tags, which is Naz and Saban Lee, am I right to say that you will be more underweight on Lee as compared to Reid, and you think that that's an easier spot to pivot?
Yeah, I think so. Because Naz Reid is he's much not less volatile, but there's much more certainty there with Naz Reid. He can get into foul trouble, and so I think it's Luka Garza is a pivot, but he's more of a DraftKings play than a FanDuel play because he's like 3,000 on DraftKings.
Okay. And then with Anthony Edwards, you mentioned he's got the Q tag. You said you think he's going to go, but is there a scenario where he does not go? And in which case, is there a guy we need to be thinking about being ready to play in case he's out?
So not really. I think if he's out, I don't think it's a huge shakeup. I think I would like maybe prioritize D'Angelo Russell a little bit more. I think it's like Taurean Prince. I think like Prince might also be questionable. So you got to see what's going on there. I always look and see if there's like player props available, and there's player props available on both D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards. And usually that's not the case if like a guy is really, really like uncertain. Just because they don't want you betting on not just the guy player himself, but also like his teammates. Like, so you could go hammer like D'Angelo Russell overs. And so like I think that's what leads me. This has been wrong a handful of times in the past, but like that's what leads me to believe that Anthony Edwards is probably going to play. Also, like Minnesota just seems to do this with injury tags, where they like just keep guys questionable even after they come back from injury.
Yeah, some teams just do that. They just keep the tag on dudes. Yeah. Okay, very good. We do have some questions coming in, but we want to talk DK first. So, Dre, if you don't mind, walk me through a DK cash build. And then Squirrel will get your thoughts on DK tournaments as well before we open it up to the QQs. And I think Dre might be muted.
Yeah, I muted myself. Sorry, my dog was in the background. But on DK, it's a little bit of the same thing. Lock Nas Reed and don't think twice. Just do it. 4,600 is cheaper on this site compared to FanDuel. Saban Lee, he's mid-price here, so I understand why a lot of people are going to be on him. So cash, he's perfectly fine. Tournaments, I would play a lot less of him, personally. But and Kyrie is fine in cash. Definitely, obviously, but he's still at 19%. So you might want to go with something a little bit more different. Probably go with a guy like I think Fred VanVleet might come in a little bit higher ownership. I think he's someone that you can use also in cash, or Lillard, which is like one of my favorite plays here as well too today. I do also moving over to like shooting guard. Sorry, I don't mind taking. Sorry, I keep thinking tournaments. Gary Trent obviously is another high popular guy, 22%. Don't mind taking shots on him in cash, as well as Anthony Edwards. And a B-rated pivot, like Squirrel said, if we have to go to a guy like D'Angelo Russell here, if Edwards doesn't play, but I think he will end up playing here. Small forward, we can get to guys like Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, besides the guys like Anthony Edwards, who can play shooting guard or small forward. I think those are good options here as well too. Josh Hart is a very strong option too as well. I think here at 4.9 too, coming at a high ownership along with Jaden McDaniels, being that there's no Gobert again tonight as well. Then moving on to power forward center. Power forward because center is Nas Reed all day. Scotty Barnes I think is a good option as well. I would be a little bit lower on Draymond Green, but he's fine, obviously, in tournaments. If you want to take some chances with him. I do think Andrew Wiggins is good, too, and Kyle Anderson is not a bad cash play at all today. And like I said, Kevon Looney as well on this side. $100 less. You can even play them both together in the same lineup and be fine today, too, as well.
Okay, very good. Squirrel, run me through your thoughts in a little DK tournament.
Yeah, so it's actually much harder to get away from the chalk in DraftKings rather, because like you look at like Saban Lee and with FanDuel, like he's on the point guard position and like there's the possibility that other point guards could outscore him. Like actually have more Saban Lee on DraftKings because he's 3,200 and the FanDuel prices don't even go down that low. But also, like, the multi-position eligibility makes it so hard to get away.
It's like somewhere you got to play that 3-2 guy who's probably going to score your points. Somewhere in the util or the guard or the point guard.
Exactly, yeah. You got the guard spot, the flex spot. And then, like, what I was talking about earlier with, like, the Nas Reed, like, Joel Embiid thing, like, I'm going to have much more Joel Embiid on DraftKings because, like, I can put Nas Reed at, like, power forward position. I can put Joel Embiid at the center position. I can use either one of them in the utility spots. So it makes it much harder to get away from the chalk. Like I would, so like Saban Lee, like starting the point guard position, like I would play like Saban Lee, or I would like play some other Phoenix guy that I thought is going to get like benefit if Saban Lee like isn't playing or something, like Dwayne Washington.
Gotcha.
And like do something like that. Maybe like Mikal Bridges or Torrey Craig or Cameron Johnson. I like Damian Lillard more on DraftKings again, like the multi-position eligibility thing. And somebody that like a lot of people aren't talking about that it's kind of an out there play, but Gary Payton is only 3,000. So I think you're going to see a lot of people playing like Saban Lee and Torian Prince. Payton's like I think probable with a shoulder injury. I actually like Gary Payton as like a pivot. And people talk about like Luka Garza too. But Gary Payton is a guy that could play, and he's only 3,000 and he easily outscore those other guys. So he's a guy at the point guard and shooting guard positions that I like. Still like Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart as well at the shooting guard positions. Also like Anthony Edwards as a shooting guard. Like Josh Hart, I think he's a little bit more better priced on DraftKings than in FanDuel. He just seems to show up more in my lineups there. Andrew Wiggins, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Like I think the Golden State Boston game is getting a little bit overlooked. The fact that it has like a much higher point total, and Boston's like favored by a few points. Like we should be playing like more Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Let's see power forward spot. Like mix in some Ben Simmons. It's kind of weird he's a power forward. And then center I already talked about. Like don't be shy with your Naz Reid exposure, and then you can also play him with Embiid on DraftKings.
Okay, are you worried about, you mentioned it's harder to get away from the chalk. Are you worried about being too chalky on DK? Or do you think mixing in or being a little heavier on those Boston guys might kind of push you off the chalkiest builds?
Yeah, I think that's enough to differentiate you. Like, I'm not, like, I've got a ton of Naz Reid. And he actually helps a little bit that he had a bad game yesterday. Because I've seen a number of people, like, kind of talking about, like, Luka Garza. Because, like, Naz Reid was in foul trouble yesterday, but it was foul trouble. It's unlikely to happen again. Yeah. Like I'll play Naz Reid in this spot kind of as much as I can. And it's not going to work 100% of the time. But he's not going to be 100% owned either. So like I'm going to try to be over the field on a very highly owned Naz Reid.
Okay. And you talked about, I think it was Gary Payton. I don't even know, what is his situation? I don't even know where the hell he is.
Oh, Portland. Yeah, he's playing for Portland.
I love that call. I love that play.
Okay. And is it contingent upon anything, or it's just throw him in there and hope that he gets some run?
I think he's a good salary saver. And like if you play like Gary Payton and Saban Lee, that's like that's opening up for like maybe one additional high price player that other people aren't having. Because Gary Payton's getting like almost entirely overlooked.
Okay, very good. I like it. That gives us about 9 minutes or so for some QQs. Dre, is there anything you want to add before we start opening it up to the masses?
No, I just love that Gary Payton call. I literally had to just add him to my lineups now. It's a great call.
Okay, very good. Let's pull up the old RotoGrinders Discord. If you're not there, you should be. It's a spot to be. Let's start with Mike. This is a FanDuel GPP question coming to you, Squirrel. Rolling with Dame, Embiid, and Kyrie as my studs. What are your thoughts on that? Do I need to pivot off a high-owned Kyrie?
Sorry, it was Damian Lillard, Kyrie, and who?
And Embiid in a FanDuel GPP, and he's wondering if he needs to pivot off. My thought is no. If you have Embiid, you're probably already off the chalk because you don't have the center.
Exactly, you're on your game. So yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to worry because you're going to be like off the Naz Reid chalk. It's going to be a very different lineup.
Yep. Just hanging out with you guys long enough just really teaches me a lot. I may just be a weatherman, but I learned some things hanging out with y'all. Steve O says Brogdon and White coming off the bench today. Squirrel, I'm giving this to you as well. Brogdon and White coming off the bench today. Which one would you rather on DK, or to you, are they kind of the same guy?
They're kind of the same guy. Let's see. I'd probably prefer Derek White. I have more Derek White than Malcolm Brogdon. Let's see. White is looking up the pricing. White's 5,100. Brogdon 5,900. Like if you can use the salary, I would use Derek White. If not, I use Malcolm Brogdon.
Side note: did you know Derek White swats the hell out of people all the time? Like he has some of the most impressive block shots I've ever seen for a guard. He really dude has hops and is just aggressive with the shot block, and I like watching him play. FanDuel single entry. I guess I'll give a single entry here. Just I'll throw this over to Dre. Would you play Embiid and Lillard in the same lineup? FanDuel single entry.
Yes.
Very good. Squirrel, this one's coming to you. FanDuel single entry 3v3. Trent Edwards and Scotty Doesn't Know Barnes, or Jalen Kyrie and Slow-Mo Anderson?
I'd go with the second one. I like a lot Jalen Brown and Kyrie Irving. So.
Okay. FanDuel GPP. Squirrel, Dame and Bridges, or Van Vliet and Siakam?
I'd go with Lillard and Bridges.
Very good. DK Cash question. This is coming to you, Dre. Do you think it's fine to play both Harden and Embiid in DK Cash, or should I play Kyrie over Harden?
I think it's fine personally. I would run it back, but that's up to you.
Okay, very good. DK Cash again, Dre, to you. Lillard, Trent, or Van Vliet and Edwards?
Lillard, Trent, or Van Vliet, Edwards. Lillard, Lillard, Trent.
Okay, very good phrase. DK Cash. Right back at you, Dre. 3v3. Embiid, Hart, McDaniels, or Precious, Harden, Barnes?
First one.
Okay, I'm starting. The cold is coming back here. I'm getting stuffed up as I go. Aside, FanDuel Cash, Washington Time Lord, or Hart and Precious?
Washington Time Lord or Hart and Precious, the second one.
All right. Steve-O, DKGPP, Squirrel, would you play Nas? This is an interesting question. Would you play Nas and Garza in the same lineup, or for Garza to smash, do we need Nas to fail?
They're really cheap, so it's possible they could both hit, because like Garza is like dirt cheap. I think he's like stone minimum at 3,000. But really, yeah, you really do need like Nas Reed to fail for like Garza to hit his ceiling. So like I would try to avoid it. If you can't, it's not a terrible idea. Like it can hit, but I would try to avoid it.
Okay. All right. Chinatown. This is a very important question. Portland has more strip clubs per capita than any other city in the United States.
Oh my
Does this
God.
affect your willingness to roster James Harden?
No.
I don't know.
It's something to consider. It's
like a scientifically like significant difference in his performance.
Yes. Now on a smaller slate, I think you just got to roll with what you got here. But if this was a big, if we had 14 games, you got to fade Harden in strip club popular cities. But 4-game slate, we're gonna hope that he can avoid it. DKGPP, Peyton and Horford, Squirrel, or Washington Prince?
Peyton, Horford, or Washington Prince.
Correct.
I probably like Peyton and Horford. That was an interesting Portland fact, by the way. There's like more strip clubs per capita.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was doing a hit with someone the other day with like VSIN, and pre-hit, they're like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in Houston." And the guy was like, "Great strip clubs down there." I was like, "Really? I didn't even know that about my own city. I was unaware that that's a thing." So I don't know. I guess I need to do a little research, I guess. Gambles, is FanDuel Cash Draymond and Smart, or Hart and Bridges? Draymond, Smart, or Hart, Bridges?
The first one.
Okay, Achilles says DK Cash, rank them. Dame, Harden, Kyrie.
Dame, Harden, Kyrie. Kyrie last, Dame first, Harden second.
Okay, so there you go. He already had ranked them. Dame, Harden, Kyrie.
Yeah, they're already ranked.
Jumping on over to the YouTube here. Taylor says, what is our minutes projection for Cam Johnson? Squirrel, do you happen to have that on hand?
I don't know. I think it's kind of unknowable because it's his first game in a couple of months. But he's a kind of a high upside play if he's getting his regular minutes. We just don't know. Okay. I was looking for any information. I haven't seen anything about everything is a guess. We just have no idea. I would pay attention.
Is he priced at a point where you're okay taking that guess personally, Squirrel?
Yes, he is. He's pretty affordably priced, especially considering like Chris Paul is out, which I don't think was the case when he was like last playing in November. So I think it's worth the risk. Like they have said he's playing, or I think he's probable. So he's expected to play, and he's like priced well enough that even if he's not playing like a full game, that he's still a reasonable play.
Okay, very good. DKGPP, Van Vliet, Barnes, or OG, Squirrel?
Sorry, Van Vliet, Barnes, or OG. I like Van Vliet.
You like Van Vliet, yeah. Let's see. FanDuel Cash, Dre, you want Johnson, Cam Johnson, and Siakam, or Horford and Edwards?
Cam Johnson and Siakam, Horford and Edwards. First one.
Derek says DKGPP, Edwards or Brown. I got this, Squirrel. The thing is, Edwards is probably in a vacuum, maybe the better play. But you look at the ownership. You think about Brown. This guy's on a team that has the highest point total of the night. He's coming in a little bit underlooked. They're favored. They're going to be scoring points. Somebody's got to do it. Why not Brown at lower ownership? He's the guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I literally stole that verbatim from what Squirrel said earlier in the show. So, Adam says, any interest in Wiggins on DK?
Yeah, I have some Wiggins. I think it's a very reasonable play.
Okay, very good. Jumping back over to the RG Discord here. Most likely to have a big game. This is fun. Also most likely to bust. I'll let you both answer it. Time Lord or Draymond? Most likely to have a big game. Most likely to bust.
I'll go with Time Lord as the big game.
Yeah, okay. I kind of agree. He's been waiting to come out for a while, so I'm in agreement with that one.
Very good. DKGPP, Squirrel, Bridges or Trent?
Let's see, Bridges or Trent. I think I have more Mikal Bridges. Yeah, Bridges.
Okay, very good. FanDuel, I'll call it cash, though it's not specified. From Darren, it says Smart or Russell. Dre, you want Smart or Russell on FanDuel?
Give me Smart.
Okay, DK, I'm going to call it a tournament from Jay Kearney. Squirrel, you want Dame, Embiid, Trent, or Johnson, or Thompson, Brown, Green, and Embiid. This is a 3v4.
Yeah, I like the first one. I like if you can get Lillard and Embiid, go with that.
Okay, that's impressive. You were able to navigate a 3v4 because I could barely even read it without my head exploding. So good work. Mike, by the way, says I live in Portland and can confirm, indeed, the most strip clubs per capita in the U.S. Fade Harden at all costs. Hey, you're always looking for an edge in these smaller slates, however thin or odd that edge may be. So if that's your edge, I don't hate it. Guys, with that and me feeling like shit, I think we are going to bounce on out of here. So for Squirrel, for Dre, there we go. Yay, let go. Bye-bye. I like it. For Squirrel, for Dre, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.